There's always more we can do to imagery, but sometimes the upsampling of these images is brutal. And when you look at them at full size, it's not always as clean as what we're seeing here. We have a little bit of edges going on, a little bit of pixelation on the edges, some artifacts showing up. So what you can do here, I'm going to hit Command O to get back, is make an everything layer. And again, Shift, Option, Command. Sometimes you have to hit End for the new layer, and then Shift, Option, Command, E for the everything layer. Now we're going to turn this into a smart object. And the right click, you have to right click out here, not on the icon. If you're not going to get smart object here on the icon. So two different contextual menus you have to deal with. Once this is a smart object, you need to do this because you want to work non-destructively. Then you go under Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. And this comes from Jim DiVitale, a Photoshop pro from way back. He's the guy who came up with this idea. At least he's the one who shared it with me, with a room full of people. It wasn't just me. And you pick some radius, and because this is a smart object, we can double click on this and change it and say okay, and then say, oh my goodness, maybe that's a little too much. And if you were doing this right on the pixels, you couldn't do this. Then after you have your blur, you change the blending mode from normal to darken or multiply. Sometimes multiply works. On this, it's probably going to go too dark. It's kind of nice. And we can try darken. A little more contrast. But when you make this layer, you have to have already made all your changes under here, because now anything you do down here will have absolutely no effect because it's being covered up by these pixels. We turn these off and on. And you say, well, did that really help? Well, let's look at full size. You can't tell unless you come in Command 1 to full size. Now you see we have this painterly effect. It's really sweet. Look at the trees. They're kind of ghosted. Same thing on the mountains here. It almost, excuse me, looks as if someone drew it. And then from this point, you can lower the opacity a little bit. Sometimes that'll bring in a lot more detail. Now we see before and after, but still gives us this real arty effect, which is nice. And you can always come in and say, what happens if I crank these pixels up a little more? You can go way too far, and you find your sweet spot. There is no perfect setting. Every image is different. Every opacity change is different. You have to figure it out as the artist. Now, I don't know about you, but I think this looks pretty darn cool. Come back out here, and that is a few of the things. There are so many more. This picture doesn't have a lot of color, and because of that, we didn't use a lot of other techniques. Like I said, every picture is different. Every set of enhancements is different, but we're building a tool set that we're going to use again and again. I want you guys to know about spot healing layers and dodge and burn layers and working with smart objects so we don't work destructively all the way through this.